What is up, guys? In today's video, I'm going to be going over some things that hopefully will help you get sniped less in Fortnite Chapter 5. As always, if you guys do find this video helpful, informative, interesting, remember to give it a like, subscribe if you like some more, and comment down below what you think of the sniper meta in Chapter 5. If you like that snipers are like super good this season, or if you are annoyed by it. And I think a lot of players are annoyed by it because I think this is like probably the biggest question I've been asked so far this season is just like, how do I stop getting sniped? Or just people saying that they lose so much to snipers. So I'm going to be going over some things in this video that should help with that, but there's not really anything you can do to just never get sniped. Like, it's going to happen sometimes. It's a part of the game. Snipers are very good this season. A lot of players are carrying them, so you're going to get sniped from time to time. There are things that you can do to kind of reduce the amount of times you get sniped or make yourself a harder target, so that's what we're going to talk about. And the first thing is just going to be your movement. When you're walking around the map, you want to have as unpredictable movement as possible. This is going to be like randomly jumping, maybe sliding randomly, sprint jumping, just making yourself as erratic of a target as possible. And I've been asked about this, not a lot, but a decent amount in my videos, like, yo, why are you always jumping or like crouch spamming or just doing random stuff when moving around the map? That is why, and this is a habit that a lot of players developed in the super early Fortnite days, because in the early Fortnite seasons, snipers were very good. Like, y'all played in OG, those weapons had a lot of bloom, and that made snipers a lot more prevalent in the early seasons than what we saw in kind of like Chapter 3 and 4. So people had the habit of just, jumping while moving, doing things to make yourself a harder target to hit, and that's just one thing you could do to hopefully get sniped less, is just have a habit of erratic movement when you're traveling around the map. You also just want to limit how many angles you're exposed to as often as possible. You could do this by kind of, playing the edge of circle, or if there's any sort of like high ground in circle at times, that can kind of limit your exposure. But if you're just standing out in the middle of a field, you're much more likely to get sniped than if you're like behind a rock on the edge of zone. You know what I mean? And that's a very basic, easy to understand example, but you just want to keep this in mind at all times. If you're fighting a POI, you probably want to play on the edge of the POI rather than the center of it. This kind of just goes for shooters all the time. Like, whether or not snipers are meta, just reducing the amount of angles that you're exposed to at any given time will make it a lot easier for you to play the game. But it's like especially true with snipers being the meta, because like anybody can take you out at any point in time. One headshot is all it takes. So just limit how many angles you're exposed to as often as you can when traveling around the map. And the next thing is going to be to use cars. I think cars are very, very, very important this season, and a large reason why is because of how good snipers are. So you want to be using these cars as often as possible. Not only is it harder for you to get sniped while you're driving the car, you travel around the map faster, so you're kind of limiting the time that you're traveling out in the open, but also you can use this as mobile cover at any given time. So if you haven't been using cars in Chapter 5 and start using them, I think your life is going to get a lot better. Endgame especially, which we'll kind of get to later on in the video, I think cars are very, very good this season. I've had a lot of endgames that are stagnant, and being able to use a car gives you a huge advantage. So if you haven't been using these, make sure you're using them. It's just the way fights play out now. Just the longer you're exposed, the more problematic that is. And that brings us to our next point, is that you just want to assume that people that you're fighting mid to long range are using a sniper, even if there's no sniper glint, because the only sniper scope that has glint is going to be 4x. That's like the light when somebody is aiming in. Any weapon with a 4x scope on it will have glint. It's not a sniper thing. It's not like all snipers have glint regardless of scope. It's only the 4x scope. If you put it on an AR, it will have glint like a sniper. So just whether or not there's sniper glint, the person could still be sniping. If they're using a red dot or the 2x sight, there is no sniper glint as of the time I'm recording this video. And so if you're you see someone mid-range and you just start ARing them, they might just turn and snipe you, or they might get to cover and snipe you. Those medium to long range AR fights are just really not a thing this season. And so using a sniper yourself for those types of fights, or maybe getting your tags in and then pushing the person with your car mobility, is probably going to be much preferred to like ARing them for like 100 damage and then kind of like waiting for them to peek into you, because at that point you don't know that they have a sniper. So just assume a lot of people are using a sniper, because a lot of people are. And if you are in a situation where, you're kind of sniping at somebody and they're sniping at you, you probably just want to avoid that fight entirely if you don't want to get sniped. And I've talked about this on stream before, and people are like, no, those sniper fights are like the most fun part of the game. And if that's how you feel, like, that's great. Do what you want to do, play how you want to play. But if you just want to get sniped as little as possible, opting into those sniper versus sniper fights are like not ideal. You might want to push the person with your car and then make it some more of like a close range fight with shotguns if that favors you. But sniper versus sniper, one of those people is probably going to get sniped. So if you don't want to get sniped, don't opt into those fights. And if you are going to fight them, try not to peek the same angle over and over again. You want to mix up how you're peeking, whether it's, from one side of the tree of the rock and then sliding to a different one. Maybe you use some terrain to kind of mix up where you're peeking. But just think about it like this. If you were fighting somebody, you would want them to just peek the same angle over and over again, right? That just makes it much easier for you. So don't do that. Don't be predictable like that. And this is another situation where cars can be incredibly helpful because you can kind of drive your car, get out of the car, peek from the right shoulder, get back in the car and move again. And you just kind of rinse and repeat this and keep mixing your angles up. And if you are able to break line of sight versus a sniper, this can also give you a huge edge. And that's kind of like what I was talking about before with like any sort of angled terrain. Like if you're on a hill or something, you can kind of move to the side and they might not be able to see you as much. The angled foregrip is also going to be a must if you do want to fight these like sniper versus sniper fights. And while it is best to avoid them, a lot of mid-range this season, I am using the sniper. There's a difference between sniping at somebody for like picks when they don't know you're there or like to open the fight versus repetitively peeking into a sniper over and over again. You want to avoid repetitively peeking into a sniper, but starting the fights with you sniping the opponent, whether it's a headshot or a body, makes it very easy for you to win the fight. And the angled foregrip is an attachment that increases your aim down sight speed, so you're going to aim in faster. And this makes the snipers much snappier to use, and it's just very good. So I would highly suggest using the angled foregrip on your sniper. Another thing that kind of will undo everything we just talked about is if you're getting too tunnel visioned on one person, because typically when people get tunnel visioned on something, that just means they're focused on that one thing, And the more you're just focused on one thing, the less you're going to be focused on your surroundings. And so you're probably going to be exposed to more angles, not having like as unpredictable of movement. So just try not to get tunnel visioned on one person too much. This kind of goes back into having those like sniper standoffs. You might have a sniper standoff with somebody where y'all are both just kind of trying to snipe each other. And then you end up getting third party sniped by somebody because you were not moving enough and you were too focused on that other guy and you were exposed to an angle that you weren't thinking about. So try not to get too tunnel visioned on people. This also happens with the medallions a lot. Like I've had it happen to me for sure, where I'm trying to eliminate the medallion players and I'm like only concerned about that medallion player and I forget like there's other people also coming to eliminate the medallion players, So just keep that in mind. Anytime you get too tunnel vision on people, try to, not do that. Reset it. Just repositioning after fights in general and potentially avoiding the medallions will probably make it easier for you to not get sniped. You pretty much always want to reposition after you're fighting, or even, if you don't get the kill, if you've been fighting for a while and creating a lot of noise, other people are going to come to third party that, And this season, with the snipers being good and being really prevalent, people can third party you from 100 plus meters, no problem. So just repositioning after fights as often as possible is like a good rule of thumb to just have, but it becomes more so true when snipers are very good, like how they currently are. And the final thing I want to talk about is Endgame. I kind of touched on this earlier, but my primary concern this season, Endgame, is just not getting sniped. And this often makes matches take longer. I'll kind of have a clip on screen now of an endgame that I played recently where there's just nothing going on for several zones. It's a 1v1v1, and I'm sure a lot of you guys know, like, when it's a 1v1v1, you probably don't want to fight because then you're just going to get third-partied, right? But this is especially true, like I talked about before, with the snipers, because they can third-party you from anywhere, and when it's endgame, the zone is going to be small enough that you can just always get third-partied. So I just try to play endgame to not get sniped as much as I can, and this often results in just using a car a lot and trying to rotate ahead of zone and then third party any fights that happen. A lot of players endgame this season, whether it's builds or zero builds, are just playing to snipe, or there's always going to be those people playing to snipe endgame, and so you also get a lot of people playing to not get sniped, and so just nothing happens in the endgame. And so when you have games like this, just trying to consistently get ahead of zone and then look back and hold the lobby if any fights do happen makes your life a lot easier. Cars are great for this, like I touched on, because you have that mobile cover. It's going to be much harder for people to snipe you out of it. And also getting the forecast towers also helps with this because you'll always be able to see where the next zone is going to be. And so it's easier for you to prepare and get ready to move to that next zone. But that is going to be it for this video. I hope you guys found this helpful, informative, interesting. Like I said, I got asked about this a bunch, and I tried to make a video on it just to be helpful, but it is a harder topic to talk about because it is just going to happen sometimes this season. There's nothing you can do to just not get sniped for the rest of Chapter 5 Season 1. It's going to happen. Doing these things will probably limit that or limit your deaths to snipers, but it's the meta of the game right now. It is what it is. If you guys found this helpful, informative, interesting, remember to give it a like, subscribe if you like some more, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Thanks for watching.